teams, while working on test strategies, have two very different approaches sometimes. On one side of the spectrum, you have a very waterfallish way where we say we're going to design the whole test strategy in every detail possible, and then we're going to write a very elaborate step action plan towards how we get from where we are today to where this test strategy, where we are supposed to be in order to implement this test strategy. And you have those, then you might go into those Gantt charts and that typical project planning which we used to do. Now the which of course isn't going to work, because as we've learned over decades of software development, we really can't predict very well what the future is, and as we move along, things change. We can't really follow a plan. We can't develop a long 3-year or 2-year long plan and then stick to it. It doesn't happen. On the other side of the spectrum, you have folks where they say, you know what, since no plans work, and since we don't want to invest a lot in this strategy mumbo jumbo, so let's just just wing it. Whatever comes along, whenever we have a new feature, whatever needs to develop, we just develop that feature, push it out the door, and that is it, right? We don't really need a lot of strategic thinking and all of this, going towards having a quality vision or whatnot, and that really doesn't work. With them, the problem is, with this approach, eventually you end up just putting out fires all the time, because the industry is evolving. If we don't evolve with it, our techniques don't evolve with it, what happens, as the product grows along, we start to incur a lot of technical debt, and that becomes a challenge. And this mode of just try to test whatever we can whenever we get a feature really doesn't help us build those foundation enablers which need to be in place in order for us to really be very good at delivering speed, or to increase our speed of delivery and improve our quality, right? So both approaches don't necessarily work in their purest form, and I think these are two extremes of that spectrum. So how do we find what is the best approach, right? So we have these two extremes, and I think the best way to go is have a middle ground between the two. We need a target vision, we need a strategy, but we cannot also have a very detailed plan. It has to be agile. So the way I think about it is, strategic vision and having a test strategy is important, because we need to know what our problems are today, what should be the expectation, what should be our strategic vision, where we want to be in terms of quality, and what enablers we have to build to get there. And as we move along, we have to piecemeal and build these enablers, these technical enablers, as we move along. It's also about ways of working, how we approach test case writing, defining requirements, coming up with tests, what to automate, how to automate, where to automate. All of that is also more along the lines of ways of working. So all this goes hand in hand, and unless we have a clear direction of what the ideal utopia world looks like, we won't be able to get there. So have a very clear vision, right? And have a very good test strategy. Now, how to get there doesn't necessarily has to be one big large test plan or a Gantt chart, right? That has to be agile. So we plan what we can do for, let's say, 2 sprints, 3 sprints, or a PI, if you will, if you're working in scaled agile, for 3 months. But take it step by step, and just plan for a few sprints ahead, and try to evolve as you move along. Because let's face it, I mean, we're not very good at estimating things, right? We can't really build a 2-year plan and do everything should happen exactly the same way. So, and for after every let's say 3-4 iterations, whatever, the sprint level, how long we want to plan our test plan for, how much, whatever that duration is, we evolve, we adapt to the learnings from the previous cycle. So for instance, let's say we want to focus more on API automation. Let's say in the next 3 sprints, or let's say in the next 4 sprints, we want to improve our API automation, right? So we start off with saying, okay, let's build something, some basic, very MVP API framework. Let's start writing some API tests. It might so happen that 2-3 sprints down the line we realize, oh, I think, you know what, our APIs aren't built that well, and we have a lot of checks written on the UI side in our product, which actually should be on our services, right? So that's a design problem which we should fix. So let's keep building these API tests. I mean, they're important, and it'll be a while probably that we get those, but we also need to start putting in some of our checks in our code, in our production code, not only on the front end but also on the back end, so these services are standalone usable, right? Just an example. So we build our test plan incrementally. So what, in short, have a very clear target vision of where you want to be, but the journey is going to be unexpected. You cannot plan it. So take that in phases, in a few sprints at a time, and evolve your approach as you move along.